Welcome to the session 2 of the Stakeholder Integration Virtual Conference, Perspectives on Establishing Relationships as a New Director, Workforce and Economic Development through Adult Education Services and Strategic Outreach Partnerships. Our presenter today is Maria Cris Gonzalez. She's the Adult Education Director at Region 1. And my name is Olga Escamilla, and I'm going to be your host and moderator. We also have Beth Ponder, Deborah Hargrove, and Anne-Marie Molinari in the session to assist as needed. I'd like to welcome our presenter at this time. And our presenter is Maria Cris Gonzalez, and she is the Program Director or Administrator for Adult Education and Literacy Services at Region 1 Education Service Center in Edinburgh, Texas. She's an experienced educator with over 25 years of experience in public and charter schools. She has experience in fiscal management for federal and state funding, including analysis, both qualitative and quantitative, of a quasi-experimental design. And she's worked in the private sector in the most economically depressed areas in the state of Texas, which has given her the heart of a social worker, and that's an invaluable asset for AEL. I definitely agree on that. Which honed her skills in strategic and international outreach for potential partnerships. I'm going to transfer the presentation to Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez, you're on.
Hello, everybody, and it is an honor to be amongst some of the greatest people making a difference every day out there in our communities. And I really appreciate this opportunity to share some of the things that I have learned along the way. And being here, people still like to call me the new kid on the block, and I really appreciate that. And it is, again, an honor to be here before you. All right, perspectives from the field. Some of the things I thought I would share at first is the fun part that no one ever tells you about. And some of the interesting things that I have encountered along the way is, and I'll give you an example. Last night, after 5, I was traveling out to a very remote area in Starr County. That takes almost 2 hours to get to, but I have a class out there in a tiny little town, a couple of yards from the river, that's heavily guarded by, the area is Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and DPS. And but when I do go out there and I do visit with the teacher, and last night she had a full house, and they just so appreciate that so much. And one of the things I always like to tell people that I was sort of aware of, but not really, make sure you know the area you are going to. I like to, refer to my navigation system sometimes, but they don't always take you where you thought you were going. And some places are not even on the map. For example, last night, it was already dark, and I called a friend, and they said, as long as you pass Efren Garza and pass Escobares, you're okay. And you put those things in, and of course they don't show up. So it's always a good idea to just figure out where you're going first and know how to get there, and ask people that actually live in the area, because like I said, sometimes the navigation systems don't always work. And being along the border, I try to avoid a stakeout. I try not to park on the side of the road in remote areas, and always be prepared to stop at Border Patrol checkpoints that just pop up. If someone is going really, really fast and wants you out of the way, just pull over to the shoulder. Because in the area where I work in, the Tri-County area, especially Starr County, there is a lot of Homeland Security out there, and there's always a lot of activity out there, and one needs to be very, very careful out there. Always be prepared with snacks and water for your travel if you are going to various sites throughout the day, especially in remote areas. And one thing that has come in really convenient is my roadside assistance. It comes in very convenient, and in remote areas, it may take them a bit longer, but they will get there. And I kept reminding myself of this one. Try not to travel in remote areas in the dark. because that's what I was doing last night. As I was returning back home, and it must have been about 9:30 in the evening, as I was returning back home, there are some areas that are not lit and very remote, very little traffic, and like I said, I was reminded of my own presentation today, not to be out there in the dark. And also, when you're getting ready to meet with different companies and with different, I've met some venture capitalists along my research and trying to partner with companies. Know the many facets of a company before you meet them, and be a great listener because sometimes, people may not like you. Always just be a great listener, be open to any and all opinions, and oftentimes just listen and always have concrete facts with you. And also, one thing I've learned as well is, when you're out there on the road, working to make those connections, I know most of us are not on our cell phones, but I've learned now that I just need to put the phone down, not be looking at the navigation system, just have the maps printed out before I head out. And road conditions. I'm never one to start my day with the news in the morning because I prefer positive news in the morning, but I've learned now, being out in the field, that I have to be aware of the road hazards, road conditions, accidents, and things like that because what you thought may have been a safe road, what you thought may have been a road with very little traffic, on a particular day, that may not be the case. So always, and TxDOT, our Department of Highways, always has great updates every morning, and their updates are updated usually by 7 a.m. in the morning to let you know specifically what is going on everywhere. And those are some of the fun things that I thought I would share with you because, you know, there are some really serious things, but then there are also some really funny things. For example, walking into a store out in a remote area because you forgot your water and you really just need some water. And the store attendant really wants to talk to you about what you're doing. And of course, I always carry my business cards. I always carry my brochures. I always carry flyers. And I carry a student information sheet just in case I might be able to recruit somebody along the way. One of the things also is, as the new director, do your research on who is working to develop your area. For example, your local economic boards that are specifically designed to attract businesses from overseas to your areas. You know, at this time, throughout the country, and especially here, there are many organizations working to attract businesses to our area. Know who they are. Call them. Make sure they know you. Follow up. Have a presence. And oftentimes, these have come to me as a result of times that I've made cold calls or times that I've been at a specific event. And like I said, I've had to reprint my business cards a couple of times already. And I carry brochures with me. You're going to laugh, but I carry brochures with me in my portfolio, in my suitcase, in my purse, everywhere, so that my presence is known. People know what I do, and that I am always ready to share information about what we do. And those cold calls, I was lucky enough to do a little bit of sales in my career and studied the art of making cold calls. I don't particularly like making cold calls, but oftentimes people will be at their desk, usually like on a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon. Or sometimes if they're like me, or like you, we like to get there before everybody does and usually be the last one to leave. Oftentimes we are in our offices because we know that's when it's the quietest time, right? And that's when I like to make those cold calls. And sometimes I will be sent directly to voicemail. When that happens, I actually have a script that I follow. I have a particular script that I follow to leave a very clear, very concise message so that I am positively sure that I have left the best possible message that I can so that they will return my phone call. And I leave not only my cell phone number, I leave my work number, but I let them know that I am available for them to call me on my cell phone, whether it's a holiday and over the weekend, because I don't want to miss any opportunity for any reason. Send those emails. In doing the research as to working to partner with organizations and new businesses, I would like to always follow up with an email. Whenever I make a cold call, I make sure that I follow that cold call with an email message to the person I left a voicemail for. And I tend to follow a script again because I want to keep it as clear and concise as possible, and so that they know exactly why I was calling them. And I want to set a tone of like, I'm expecting a return call. I'm expecting, a return email. And I would use one of the strategies I learned in this cold calls courses that I've had, and there were, like I said, self-research courses, is that I like to end it on a really positive note, saying something like, I look forward with great anticipation to your return phone call for our potential partnerships in the future as we help to grow the economy of our valley and help pull people out of poverty. And one of the last things also is have a really close relationship with your Texas Workforce Board. Attend functions your local workforce board invites you to for the potential to network with individuals that may need services that can help to increase their company's human capital. One of the things also that I've had to integrate from what I learned is that you want to speak a company's lingo as well. For example, when you say to the company that we'd like to help to train your employees, well, they're always thinking, and of course they always want to give back, and companies are great about that. But when you talk in their lingo, in language that they know, that they can relate to, and let them know, I'd like to help you grow your human capital within your organization, that I have found it gets me a lot more attention, and they actually say, oh, well, let me make time for you. Let me talk to you, or I'll return a phone call. And oftentimes when we set up meetings, I always offer to go out into the field to go meet with them, and I let them know I can meet you before 8 o'clock, I can meet you after 5, I can meet you, for lunch, whatever is more convenient. Oftentimes they like to come to our offices. And but the more you know about the company, the more that you know about what they're interested in, the more you know about oftentimes some of the business lingo that they use, that gives you an edge to be able to continue and open up the lines of communication with them. And as the new director, I've always been very proud of the fact that I like people to know that I've got your back, especially my teachers, my supervisors, and I make a practice of visiting my most remote sites at least once or twice a month. And yes, we have evening classes as well. And some of them, like I said, like last night's visit out to Roma, Texas, where I'm sure you've heard out in Starr County, it takes almost 2 hours to get there. But the teachers just appreciate you taking the time to go visit, especially the evening classes and remote sites when sometimes people rarely go by. And when the director or the supervisor, but especially the director from the main office goes by, it's to them it is a big deal. And the culture that we work with, see people in education as those individuals that will help to pull them out of poverty. Or as I was telling the students last night, in Spanish, because it was an ESL class, I said, todos vamos a salir adelante. Adelante meaning, we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna keep on going, to help you out here. But like I said, it was dark out there, and there was a lot of activity going on out there, and like I said, I could see the river from where I was, and which prompts me to think I need to spend more time out in the remote areas. And what I've done also is I've connected with the county judges, the brand new county judges. For example, we're collaboratively working with one of the county judges here in Hidalgo County, where we're at, to bring new classes in the more remote areas, because I let them know, you give me a building, we'll be there. And I always let them know, even if I have to teach the class until I find a teacher, we will be there. The new judge out there in Starr County, he's got all kinds of different things going on, in his sector out there, but he's very interested. So as a result of going out there, into the more remote areas, visiting with the major stakeholders, within counties, they hook me up and partner me with their area commissioners. The area commissioners, help to get the word out to the different businesses and organizations that are out there, so that we can form partnerships and continue to further expand our program. And then an example I'll give you is, I was out in Willacy County, which from my office, it's about 100 miles. So it takes me about, I'd say about an hour and a half to get out there. Maybe not 100, maybe more like, I don't know, 78 or 80 miles. But it takes me a while to get out there. And I used to work at the Raymondville schools out there. And when I was visiting our classes that time this past month, um, I walked into the class again, and there was a new student, and the new student came up to me, Miss Gonzalez, and it was one of my former custodians when I was an assistant principal at one of the schools there, and I was so happy to see her there as a student. And she says, you always talked about saliendo adelante, and moving forward, and bettering yourself for your children, for generations to come. And she said that she had finally made the time for herself to be able to go to school and to work on her ESL and get her GED, because she wanted to be promoted to head custodian or director of custodial services, at the campus or at the district level. And what that means for us, for me, for our organization, is that this person, because they're going to get more services, the services through our organization, it means that she can move up in her career at the district that she's at, getting more money, but she's setting the example for her daughter, and her daughter's life will be much different, and her grandchildren's lives will be much different as well. And then visit with the folks who are partnering with your organization by allowing you to use their facility pro bono. I like to visit also during the day, during regular working hours, and I like to call them first before I go out there. For example, there's one area that's, again, very remote. It's a tiny little school district called La Sara, and we partner with the community center there. And I like to go out during the day out there, and also stop in Hargel, which I'll tell you a story about the cotton gin there. And I like to go during the day to visit with the people that loan us, that we have an MOU with, because they're loaning us their facility pro bono. And I like to go there and show them my appreciation, let them know I'm who I am, and if there's anything they need, and what they foresee that their community might need, and how we can help. And oftentimes, this leads to us being invited to go present, or be at a fair that they're having, or anything like that. And sometimes you get invited to, like, a city parade or things like that, and I try to go to every single thing I am invited to. And I like to send them emails and ask about their facilities. Is there anything we can do? How, and basically just letting them know I am there, our organization is there for them. And if they know of anybody else that needs our services, or if they know of businesses within their town that could use our services, they always refer me to something. And also, the next thing is research methodologies to get the word out about your services. Find out what is going on in the different cities through the Chambers of Commerce, a city's website, or the events listed in social media so that your organization can have a presence there. Um, my my supervisors and teachers are, and they know that's something that's important to me already. So they're always sending me emails. Oh, by the way, there's a fair here. By the way, the free medical clinic is setting up here. And one of the things I also do is, because I've worked in some of these remote areas, I am familiar with the promotoras, and these are individuals that are hired by universities who are doing outreach in some of the most economically depressed areas in our counties. And they're already out there walking the neighborhoods, trying to get the word out that they're helping. Well, at times I tell my supervisors, it's not a bad idea for you to go out there with them too. But I will not ask anyone to do something I won't do myself. So what I do is we'll go directly to the little community center that they have out in the middle of a colonia and meet with the person that's there. And I've always told my supervisors, if we need to go walk in with them, on a Saturday or something, that's what we'll do to get the word out about what we're doing. Make sure you have plenty of business cards and brochures, always, even on the weekends. Yes, weekends. You never, never, ever know who you will run into. And how can I say, I represent my organization. I represent, what we do. And I'm proud of what we do. And I am literally advertising what we do on a daily basis wherever I am at. And if I can drop a brochure, drop my card wherever I can, I do. And try to always assign yourself as the person who will go and meet with the potential new private sector partner all the time. All the time, because you are, and again, in talking in business terms, you are your own brand. You are your company's brand. You are your services brand. And as I've led my supervisors in a book study, which I'll talk about the books that we're working on. The energy that you exude, how you look, how you dress, people look up to you, and they will follow your lead. And I have found oftentimes that the more the positive energy that you exude, goes out. And oftentimes when I've gone to brand new businesses that I'm just meeting for the first time, and in the business sector, or in sales, of course, you call the main people at the front line your gatekeepers. And oftentimes, your positive energy and your sense of, bringing a valuable commodity to them, such as free GED and ESL or IET and L Civic services to them, it has the potential to really have them warm up to you, because what you're doing, and basically, I mean, we don't sell it, but that's what we've got. That's what we're out there promoting, what we do. And the best way to do it is through sending out positive energy. Research the demographics of where you are. All right. I know that sometimes when we are working on research to, present demographics and numbers and things like that, I like census data, but it tends to be old. So there are quite a few websites out there, the Innovations Group for one, that provide current demographic information at this time. And what they do is they provide your information that, and that's how I'm able to know, where the pockets, what I specifically look forward for, to when I'm conducting it. For example, I did a complete environmental scan of my Tri-County area. And what that means is that I wanted to know the area specifically. I wanted to know where the pockets of illiteracy are, where the pockets of extreme and high poverty are, and areas that are most economically distressed. For example, Starr County is economically distressed. Hidalgo County is at risk at this time, and so is Willacy County. And and these are figures from 2016. And also, UCLA actually also did an environmental scan of actually the entire valley, and it lists things like pockets of high teen pregnancy, pockets of high dropout rates, and things like that. And also, oftentimes, universities conduct environmental scans, development boards, banks, and universities, and work with local organizations also that represent farm workers and immigrants, and also with the universities and colleges doing community services. A lot of universities are out here in our Valley area doing outreach. So I like to partner with them also to see exactly where they're going to be at. Can I tag along? And then also working with the chambers of commerces, because they have incubator areas where they like to incubate new businesses. For example, one of the ones I like to attend, and they have these like once a month, is it's kind of like a Shark's Tank type thing. And the McAllen Chamber of Commerce holds this once or twice a month, and people go there with brand new ideas that they've got. And what they've got in the audience are venture capitalists, people willing to spend money right now. And so in meeting these people, it will lead you to meet others that have businesses in the area that you can partner with. And when they hear about the services that we have, through IET, through workplace literacy, they're just excited and want you to go and present. One of the examples that was given to me specifically by our local workforce board, Omar Trevino. I said, look, I need to partner with businesses and, send me out to the remote areas. Well, he sent me out to a remote area. It was a little citrus company, and I thought it was a small little citrus place called Wonderful Citrus in a little town called Hargill. And it had been raining a lot that day, but I still went out there. Halfway between getting stuck in the mud and then trying to finally get to the office, the person there was just so excited that someone actually went out to their place of business. And she said, "Do you want to get on the golf cart and get a tour of the whole area?" I'm like, "Of course." Not wearing my rubber boots or anything like that, but still went. But when you do things like that, they know that you're genuinely interested. And what they're doing, and we hope to bring them on board for the new program year, is their employees, the majority of them, do not know English very well, but they're having to work on Google Documents to talk about their work and things like that. So we're working on something to try and figure out how we can write that particular IET so that we can begin it in the new program year. And then I was very excited that one of the cotton gins had just gotten new equipment, but their people are, Spanish speaking. So over the weekends, because I met them through friends, I just, give them my business card, give them my brochure, and say, look, if those manuals are all in English for that new cotton, for that new cotton combine that you've got, we can help you teach your employees. If the person that represents John Deere comes to explain how that cotton combine works, only in English, well, we can help you out through workplace literacy to help your folks to understand, what that manual is saying, and perhaps even offer an ESL class. So those are the types of conversations that I'm usually having, whether at work or on the weekends, or just sharing that message, with people that I meet. Network as much as possible, and I've talked about this, but always attend networking events when you can talk about your program. If you can't go, send someone. Always promote your program wherever you find yourself. You just never, ever know who you're going to meet. You know, for example, there's a little off the beaten path restaurant in, in Starr County. And if you don't know how to get there, you'll get lost, and Google Maps doesn't have it. But I was having lunch there, and of course, I have my information and my brochures with me, and having lunch there, and the neighborhood is very, very poor. And it led to having a conversation with a gentleman that has some influence in his neighborhood, and was saying that that they really needed classes out there, because some of these people don't have transportation or anything like that. And so the restaurant manager was there, and he says in Spanish, pues aquí los pueden tener. In other words, like, well, maybe we can make room to have the classes here. So that's going to lead to more conversation, regarding that. And work with your workforce board. I can't stress that enough. Our workforce boards are amazing, and they know what's needed out there, and they've got the trends, and they've got great. I utilize their reports because they've got great trend reports. They've got reports that'll let where things are happening, where things are buzzing right now. And one of the things that I knew, was experiencing a lot of growth here in the valley, but I wasn't sure. But it's we call it here the ropa usada warehouses. It's these giant warehouses that get used clothing from around the country, and they employ a lot of employees that don't necessarily have a high school diploma and do not know English, and they may be on visas or permanent residents. We're not sure. And so what I'm going to do is, I've already you know found one here on 21st Street in McAllen, and he used to be somebody that was actually one of my parents at one of my schools when I used to be a school principal, and just going to go visit with him. He runs a giant corporation in the Ropa Usada, businesses, here in McAllen, and so go talk to him and say, how can I help you to make more money? And by helping him to make more money means that he will we will be able to train his employees, whether he's got brand new equipment or things like that, and for them to be able to do their own Google searches, on the computer using the English language to find markets for his, used clothing, throughout the country, because his employees will be able to do that for him. It won't be him who's having to do all this work, and that's an avenue I had never thought of, but it just came up, and so, and like I said, you never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to be doing, and have clear and concise messaging on social media, and like I said, I want to be very careful about the brand that I put out there, because it's important. And I like to say, we're adult education, and, we're funded through the Texas Workforce, and if one of the things that I did when I first came on board was read their strategic plan. Their strategic plan is actually a really cool thing to read, I'll be honest with you, because it gives you the heart of what they're doing. It gives you the heart of what they want to do for Texas. And that is to make sure and work towards having everybody gainfully employed, so that not just they're affected, and hopefully we can get them off, TANF and public assistance, but the more important thing is, if we help that one person, the admiral who did a speech for the University of Texas a couple of years ago, and General McRaven, he said that in our lifetime, each person affects 10,000 people. So imagine if, through referrals, in partnering with our Texas, workforce partner, if we affect one person, that person is going to go on to affect 10,000 people in their lifetime, and imagine their children and generations to come. So that's why I said, for me, it's our social media presence is critical, but you have a brand, and you need to protect it, but you need to make sure that it says exactly what you want it to say. and be very carefully developed. The new director. One of the things that the new director, I always try to say is, in order to be able to form partnerships, in order to be able to have your presence out there and to be known, I started. I always want to grow my team professionally, because you never know at what level the people that you will. In my case, the people that I inherited, what they come with. In other words, I look at it as, and I'll just give you an analogy. I just kind of look at it as, all of us, we carry our own little, wagon behind us, and we carry different things with it, But if their wagon is too full of too much other stuff, I can't put, what I need to put in their wagon, to be able to have them think the same way I do and promote our program to business and to businesses for potential growth, the same. So the very first thing I started with is we began a book study. And the book I started with is called Leading from the Front. Leading from the Front was one of the very first books Captains of Marines Angie Morgan and Courtney Lynch wrote. And it's a real simple book. If you've been in the military, it's the 10 principles of being a good Marine. But basically what they did is they made it for the private business sector. And what they did, and the very first one is, lead by example. Lead by example. And people look up to you. They're going to notice. If you want to, I always want to get noticed, right? Wherever I go, whoever I meet, whatever new organization I'm meeting, whatever business I'm working with, whatever county official, judge, state representative, whoever I am looking to get an audience with, it's really important, my presence. My presence is very, very important. And it talks about that. And then another thing that I like that it talks about is being a cohesive team. We're not in this business to get along and become friends. And I tell my team, you may not get along with someone. It's okay. We're not here to do that. We have a job. And our job is to pull people out of poverty through the services that we provide in coordination and partnership with our partner, the Texas Workforce Commission. And that's what we're here to do. And that particular book, and my supervisors have just loved the book because they said it addresses a lot of the things that sometimes they weren't sure about. And I always like to say that I won't make them go do a job that I haven't done myself. And so, but because I'm the new kid on the block, there's usually no reference point for them. So I'll give them an example from, my previous work experience, as a school principal. If something was wrong with the air conditioning, I would go with the custodian to the roof and look at it and find out where it's at. I knew the blueprints inside and out of my entire building. And here, what I'll do is I'll go out to the events. I'll go walk the neighborhoods if I have to. I will go meet with the colonial representatives. I will go meet with the Cesar Chavez's groups here in San Juan and here in Alton, and I will go out there and do that. So if I send them, they know that I've been there before. And, of course, I like these authors. The next book is Spark, and they have another author, Sean Lynch. And it's basically, the book Spark is about how to pull greatness out of people. Because, again, that's what we're in the business for. And at this time, I want to continue to pull greatness out of my staff so that they're at the same level where I'm at. And when we go out to make presentations, and we've been, just recently, we've been asked a lot to go make presentations and have booths and things like that. And I'm getting what I want. But of course, the staggering the events and things like that. But we're getting noticed. We're out there. People know who we are and what we do, and it's sparking more interest so that we can continue to grow our program and partner with as many businesses as we possibly can, and empower your team at all times. Be the example. Know how to do, every single job if possible, and always be available and let them know you support them 100%. And be very visible. I like being highly visible. Every single day I make time out of my day, even if it's during my lunch hour, to go and be seen, at any of my sites. So I have to strategically plan because I have a tri-county area and over 45 sites. And so I have to strategically, it's like, okay, today I'm going to go to these two sites. And on my long days where I have to go over 100 miles to my sites, that's an all-day thing, and I combine the day with the evening, as well. And but always be visible and let people see you and be there for them as well. And lastly, have the heart of a social worker when delivering your message. You know, I can't speak to this enough. Um, People will know and sense your energy. People will go by what you say. People will react and either believe you or not believe you by how you are delivering your message. And that's why I said, that I'm very, very careful in the brand that I am promoting. And because we are in the business of helping to pull people out of poverty. That's what we do. That's what the Texas workforce does. And luckily, at the time, I didn't know how the experiences I was going through in the job that I had done before was going to help me. Well, it was actually grooming for what I do now. Aside from the fact that AEL is very close to my heart because my dad got his GED and so did my mom, and my mom took civics courses and became a U.S. citizen and changed the trajectory of our lives forever. But and I know all of you have experiences in some sort of impoverished neighborhoods, but in some areas of some of our counties, I've been out to areas where people actually live in a junkyard by Highway 83 in Starr County. And the home that they live in was actually a trailer that was dumped, by somebody who no longer needed it because there were holes in the floor, holes in the ceiling, and the whatever the cabinets were made of were falling apart. But the dad put this trailer back together, with his hands and with his skills and whatever materials he could find, and made a home for his family, for his wife and their child. And when I would go out to observe my teachers out in those areas, I had to wait till I got to my car to cry because it was so emotional. But we were out there giving literacy. And now when I see a lot of our students, I know the impoverished areas that they come from. And when I have, a 68-year-old student saying in English, yo soy los colores, like she knows the colors, purple, red, yellow, and she's, it feels so good to listen to them. And then they also say, in Spanish, my grandson knows how to defend himself now because he knows English. I'm learning that too through the classes. And at one of the classes I visited, recently, one of the students, came up to me afterwards and she says, I'm glad you came out here. She goes, because I am missing time with my children at home. She says, because I need to better myself to give them a better life. So that's why I'm here. And, so she gave me a hug and I said, what you're doing is going to help your children and change their lives to come. And because that's what we're about. We're about changing people's lives. We're about second chances, brighter tomorrows. And one of my favorite quotes from Lyndon B. Johnson is, and it was part of his speech on, the fight against poverty when he came up with what was once known as Chapter 21, which became Title 1 and Title 3 and State Comp. He says, we must open the doors of opportunity for people, but we must equip our people to walk through those doors. Opportunity is out there, but they must have the skills that they need to be able to open those doors of opportunity for themselves. And partnerships with businesses can improve the lives of many and affect their lives for years to come, including their children and grandchildren and generations to come. And believe it or not, all businesses want to give back somehow. They really do. They want to give back somehow. And you will let them know how they can give back and how they can continue to grow their human capital within their organization. And for me, it's steadying all the time. Business lingo, what businesses are growing, using some of those charts and some of those reports, from the Texas Workforce Commission, looking through the sites that, make determinations or that, provide information to major stakeholders, at the state level, your representatives, your senators, things like that. Be very visible and obvious with your message. And, sometimes people have asked me, do you have any advice, for, working in this field or getting promoted or working at a higher level? And I always tell people, just be the best you, because, and I tell this to staff as well, somebody out there is needing for you to be your best self where you're at and at what you're doing at this time. And I'll just, reiterate one of the last facts is that visibility is paramount. And I'm working on my brand and it will be out there. And just to have a constant visibility and let people know you're out there and what you're doing. And that you are looking for opportunities to help pull people out of poverty and to help businesses grow their human potential, and more importantly here in the Valley, because some of the towns here, they offer, tax incentives and things like that, for businesses to come to their areas, but oftentimes they don't stay. And the reason they don't stay, according to some of the, reports I've seen, is that they feel the workforce is not developed enough. And so that is the gap that we're working to fill in. And I like to have those conversations with those individuals that are still thinking, I don't know that much French. I'm practicing my French because there are some, French companies that are actually looking into, relocating to the Valley. I don't know Chinese or Mandarin. I have thought of picking that up. And I know Spanish and some working on the German as well, because there are German companies that are very interested in coming as well. But they have quite a few challenges. So those are the things that we are working towards forming partnerships and just getting our word out about our message. And that is my presentation. I'm open to questions, and thank you for the honor of presenting before such a tremendous group.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gonzalez. This was great information that you're sharing with us from your perspective. I love the quotes. Again, we feel your passion for the work that you do in your area and for your students. And it is so important, like you said, as a director, to go out there and know your area, meet the people, and let them know that you care and that you're in it for them too. Thank you again, Ms. Gonzalez, for sharing your perspective and sharing this information.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to do so, and I'm so happy to have presented.